introduction, the serial killers, the basics. Now we're going to be going over the psychopathic mind, psychopathic mind, psychopathic mind. With me today, I have 4 different kinds of pens to mark with our chapter today. I've got a purple pen, the purple pen was unscrewed, so I've got a purple pen. I've got a pink pen. A blue pen, blue pen, blue pen, blue pen. And a green pen. These colors are gorgeous, 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 gorgeous now. I'll start by using the blue pen. I thought it was a really pretty blue. So we've done our introduction, the serial killers, the basics, the basics. Now we're on the psychopathic mind, psychopathic mind, psychopathic mind. And it says here that we can find it on page 20. Everybody turn to page 20 in your books, please. Okay, we are now the psychopathic mind. So, serial killers and psychopathic go hand in hand. Quite often, the term psychopath is used as a casual term when referring to murderers. Since after all, an offender must be suffering some kind of mental ailment to commit the kind of atrocities we're talking about. However, the psychopathic mind is actually much broader and more complex than people realize. And surprisingly, not all serial killers can be officially labeled psychopaths. I think something that stuck out to me was that surprisingly, not all serial killers can be officially labeled as psychopath. That's strange because I think they're all out of their damn mind, but we'll see. What is a psychopath exactly? The term psychopath is often used to describe a wide range of personalities, usually aggressive and remorseless ones. However, the psychopathy is actually a clinical term with strict guidelines surrounding its definition. Psychopathy is an antisocial personality disorder typified by several common traits, including antisocial behavior, superficial charm, lack of emotion, lack of guilt, narcissism, impulsivity, lack of empathy, parasitic lifestyle, poor behavior controls. So, these are a plethora of all of the things that are psychopathic traits. Let's go with pink. These so let's see. Only those that display them in everyday behavior can truly be considered. Okay, so it has to be every single day behavior. Okay. What's the difference between a psychopathic and a sociopathic serial killer? Psychopathic versus sociopathic. The terms psychopath and sociopath are often used interchangeably, especially when referring to the world's most heinous serial killers. However, there are clinical differences between the two, although it's important to keep in mind that these psychological terms are constantly evolving and changing. While someone might refer to a particular serial killer as a... Turn the page. Psychopath or sociopath, they're not always describing them in a way we'll discuss in a second. The core difference between psychopathic and sociopathic serial killers is that sociopaths tend to be more organized, while psychopaths tend to be more organized, while sociopaths are considered disorganized. For example, sociopathic serial killers might exhibit the following. They may be emotionally controlled or methodical, of average or above average intelligence, socially competent, persuasive, and manipulative. Often a skilled worker or self-employed, sexually adequate, subject to minimal discipline as a child, moderate use of alcohol before and after crime, takes an interest in the media reports about their crimes, often married, divorced, or has children. You'll be surprised how many serial killers have a family of their own. It's insane. Likely to return to the scene of the crime, carries out their crimes in a familiar area, purposely personalizes and terrorizes the victim to experience higher layer power, takes additional effort to remove all forensic evidence from the crime scene, takes trophies for the victims. This is all psychopathic behavior, okay? Contrastingly, a sociopathic serial killer might exhibit the following: impulsive, prone to violent outbursts, below average intelligence, unskilled worker, often sexually inadequate, harsh, abusive upbringing, using alcohol before committing murder, lives alone. So, psychopaths are the ones that are disorganized. Psychopaths are the ones that are organized. So they're more organized in their daily lives. Whereas the sociopaths are disorganized. So sociopaths are disorganized, whereas psychopaths are more organized. Depersonalizes their victims to see them as objects to reduce surges of conscience. Kills during windows of opportunity. Often doesn't conceal the victim's body post-murder. Does not fully realize the severity of their actions. So I guess that's because this psychopath is able to just have a family, be divorced, or have children, and they're basically living two different lives, but they're able to do them simultaneously without crossing one or the other. Whereas sociopaths, quite frankly, this looks like they tend not to give a fuck. Who was a typical psychopathic serial killer? Dennis Rader, aka BTK, was the Okay, so yeah, let's mark this. Raider was a suspected family man and member of community in Wichita, Kansas. However, he lived a double life as a homicidal serial killer, claiming the lives of 10 people before 1974, 1971, 91. Okay. Raider would stalk its victims for a considerable time before striking, usually learning their skills. When the time came, he would bring along all the tools he needed to break into someone's home and murder them: screwdriver, rope, duct tape. He also cut some of his victims' phone lines before entering their homes to stop them from calling for help. Following each murder, Raider would take trophies from his victims, often women's underwear. He then taunted the press and police with file letters, one of them asking, "How many do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national recognition?" As well as deriving sexual satisfaction from his crimes, Raider was also obsessed with celebrity status. Okay. So this dude was basically a narcissistic serial killer. Turn the page. So it says, who is the best example of a sociopathic serial killer? The most heinous female serial killer of all time, Aileen Wuornos, exhibited classic sociopathic behavior during her murder spree. Wuornos was a sex worker who trawled Florida highways, and between 1989 and 1990, she shot and killed 6 men. The men that Wuornos killed had in all enlisted her services as an escort at the time of their deaths. Wuornos claimed that the men turned aggressive once they were in her private company, although this portion of Wuornos' tale is still debated. And Wuornos simply acted out against them in rage. Once she'd killed her victims, Wuornos would steal and pawn their possessions. She discarded their bodies in wooden areas around Florida, made little effort to conceal them. Upon being tested in prison, Aileen Wuornos was found to have an IQ of only 81. So, Aileen Wuornos was a classic sociopathic behavior, and one of the traits exhibited here, let me see. So that's what she did, and the key factor that made her very sociopathic was the fact that she collected their possessions, she stole their possessions, and then she would pawn them and discarded their bodies around Florida, and also the fact that she made little effort to conceal them. So remember when we were speaking about the sociopaths and how a sociopath is less organized than a psychopath? So it wouldn't be a stretch to believe that it's harder to catch a psychopath than it is to catch a sociopath. Did you know Jack the Ripper, one of the first serial killers to capture the public imagination, was considered to be a disorganized sociopath? Ted Bundy, generally considered to be the golden standard of psychopaths, exhibited high levels of sociopathy, particularly in his latter murders. Sociopathic serial killers tend to killer, as we mentioned earlier, usually blaming their actions on an external force that compels them to commit murder. These types of killers tend to be a lot more random and chaotic than their psychopathic counterparts. They will more likely target strangers and carry out attacks in violent bursts. So there's psychopathic and there's psychotic. Psychotic are more like chaotic, so they're basically like a mixture of psychopathic and sociopathic, but they're more so on the sociopathic side of things. Yep. They will more likely target strangers to carry out attacks and violent bursts. They will often take great risk and leave behind a great deal of evidence, rarely taking the time or having the mental foresight to clean up their crime scenes or dispose of their victims' bodies in isolated locations. Let's switch to purple. Are there mixed serial killers? Since organized, disorganized, and psychotic are quite broad terms, not all serial killers fit neatly into one category or the other. There are numerous factors that can influence a serial killer's awareness. A serial killer's eventual designation, including intelligence, status, awareness, use of antioxidants, substantial issues, and more. Therefore, some of the typical traits can cross over. Jeffrey Dahmer is often considered a mixed offender, as his crimes displayed symptoms of organization, disorganization, and indeed psychotic behavior. And Dahmer would target gay men around his neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, luring them back to his apartment under the pretext of having sex with them. There. Let's turn the page. There he would intoxicate them and restrain them, then he would kill and dismember the corpses. On one occasion, one of Dahmer's victims managed to escape his apartment and even flagged down the passing police, but Dahmer was able to convince these officers to let the man go. Dahmer then took the man back to his apartment and killed them. This part is very important. Okay. So the officers took Dahmer. Dahmer was able to convince these officers to let the man go, and he took him back to his apartment and killed him. I feel like the officers failed that man because they took him. I feel like the officers failed that man because they took him back to the apartment. This is very important because I personally feel that. This man was failed by the police because they brought him back to the apartment, and then he was thus killed by Dahmer. Ridiculous. This all shows signs of incredible organization and capability. But Dahmer was often so drunk during his murders that he claimed to not even remember them. He worked a low-level, unskilled job, lived alone, and rarely took the necessary precautions to cover eye tracks. He would also dismember his victims to extreme levels, preserving their body parts in a jar around his apartment. Insane, like it was just. There's no words to describe. Are all serial killers psychopaths? This question has been the subject of much debate over the decades, and the consensus is that no, not all serial killers can officially be termed as psychopaths. There is, of course, a very high correlation between psychopathy and serial killing, and the majority of serial killers undoubtedly suffer from one or more antisocial personality disorders. DSM-5 criteria of schizoid personality disorder. An additional 4% had traits of schizoid personality disorder. So these are all of these statistics, basically, which basically says that serial killers can be a little bit of everything, but not every single serial killer is specifically a psychopath, because there's so much more that goes into it than just being a psychopath, because it's like beyond explaining. Like, they're just really that fucked up. What are the common psychopathic traits? Psychopathic traits can take a wide variety of forms, but they can generally be condensed to a few select traits. The most common psychopathic traits are aggressive behavior, prone to violent outbursts, superficial charm and charisma, tendency to lie, unable to distinguish between right and wrong, difficulty showing remorse or empathy, lack of regard or for safety and responsibility, behavior that conflicts with societal norms, violating the rights of others, parasitic living, manipulating or purposefully hurting others, regular problems with the law, impulsivity and failure to plan, boredom and thrill-seeking behavior, no concern for consequences. What's the McDonald triad? The McDonald triad, colloquially termed the triad of evil, is a series of factors, the presence of any two of which are considered to indicate a person might possess violent tendencies. The theory was put forward by psychiatrist J.M. McDonald in 1963. So this is a theory that indicates that a person may be violent. So basically, a way to determine if they're going to be a threat in the future. The idea is that these three factors could suggest that a child might grow up to commit violent acts, and quite often these three factors are found amongst serial killers. These factors are let's switch to green. Animal cruelty, committing acts of arson, regularly wetting the bed. So these are those three, and the one that I'm very familiar with is the animal cruelty, because we know that Jeffrey Dahmer had issues with animal cruelty as he was growing up as a child. His dad was a taxidermist, but he, on the other hand, took pleasure out of harming the animals. Animal cruelty suggests that the child is looking to take control of their environment or indulge their penchant for power play. McDonald believed that the child may have been exposed to abuse by authoritative adults to which the child couldn't retaliate. Therefore, the child vents their frustrations out onto something weaker. So they assume that the child may have been exposed to authoritative adults, hence why they are on the search for power. McDonald believed that acts of arson were ways for children to unload their feelings of helplessness and aggression, all within the confines of a detached group. Children with these tendencies would perhaps relish the chaos that fire would provide, while providing visible consequences that would satiate their need for havoc. Satiate meaning basically like to make them feel substantial, like make them feel contentment. Bedwetting, also known as enuresis. Enuresis was considered by McDonald to be linked with similar feelings of humiliation that also invoked the other traits in the triad. Additionally, McDonald considered bedwetting to be a symptom of a lack of impulse control, something that serial killers possess in abundance. Enuresis is unintentional bedwetting during sleep, persistent up to the age of 5. twice a week for at least 3 consecutive months. So, in neurosis, the term in neurosis, okay. Okay. Is the McDonald triad accurate? While the McDonald triad is generally considered to be the blueprint for diagnosing potential violent tendencies in children, it has been subject to closer scrutiny since its inception. In 1966, an independent study found that 88 incarcerated violent criminals, 87 of them possessed at least 2 of the traits during childhood. In 2004, a further study found an even stronger link between animal cruelty and violence towards humans. However, in 2018, a study found that a significant percentage of modern violent criminals do not possess 2 or more of the traits in the McDonald triad as children. Instead, the research concluded that, rather than being an indication of future violent behavior, the McDonald triad suggested that the child suffered an abusive home environment, but this may lead to criminal activities as an adult. And that is why they call it a theory. Because yes, there is studies to back up in some way that there is a consistent pattern, and they basically found these key points of animal cruelty, committing acts of arson, regularly wetting the bed. But they're not sure if that means that it's a definite thing that you can use to determine. But most people, I think, will take these signs, and if that's seen in somebody, I'm pretty sure that it's implied about how frequent the pattern has been. So despite it being a theory, I think it's quite accurate for a majority of the time. Do all psychopaths possess the desire to murder? No, not at all. There are many functioning psychopaths out there right now, living perfectly ordinary and peaceful lives who have no desire to hurt others. Yeah, there's a bunch of psychopaths living right next door to you. Seriously, there's psychopaths living right next door to you, and you don't even know. It could be anybody. It could be the ice cream man. It could be the mailman. It could be the Amazon driver. It could be anybody. Psychopaths are complex creatures, just like any neurotypical individual, and their motivations and personalities can vary greatly. We clearly see that because there's, like in the past here with the McDonald triad, there's serial killers that basically their lives foreshadowed what they would end up doing, and then there's those people that are psychopaths, but they're not taking it to the extremes of killing people like this. So it varies most definitely. Turn the page. With this said, many of the functioning psychopaths do possess the same traits listed above, in that they lack remorse and may exhibit superficial harm to achieve their goals. But most people psychopathic are not doing have the desire to murder anyone. It's so tricky. Like, that's why you gotta be aware. Let's see here. You gotta be aware of the people that you allow in your circle, the people that you allow around your children, the people that you allow around your family. You really need to be aware of who you allow around your family and your children, because these people are crazy, and you'll never know until you know. You'll never know until you know. So the best thing is, the moment you get a red flag, get out of there. The moment you get a red flag, get the hell up out of there. Stop trying to make friends. Stop trying to sit and talk. Don't feel bad about making anybody else feel bad, because once you're tied up in that basement or taken to the second location, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna feel bad for you. So it's like a hit or miss. You really gotta be very vigilant and aware of what you're doing. How many people are psychopaths? It's difficult to make an accurate analysis of just how many people are psychopaths. says here that between 0.75 to 1% of people possess psychopathic tendencies. Good God, can psychopathy be used for good? Very much so. Psychopaths make for excellent leaders in the business world, and due to their lack of emotion, they thrive in high stress, high risk occupations. I knew it. Because business is literally so stressful. It's so stressful to keep up with all these things, yet remain successful and keep your head on a shrivel. I think at least some part of you has to be psychopathic to be able to block out those emotions. I feel like some doctors could also be psychopaths because of the fact that they probably are able to undergo all of that stress because they lack that emotion, and it doesn't always mean that they're gonna kill somebody. So, because they're out here saving people, but it may not be that they're doing it from the good of their heart. Maybe they're just good at it, you know. Psychopaths are assertive. They don't waste time. They don't beat themselves up if things go wrong, and they're constantly striving for the next achievement. For these reasons, psychopaths tend to excel in certain industries. More on this in the later chapter. The medical and business worlds, law enforcement, and militaries all over the world are often brimming with those who display psychopathic tendencies. Yup. According to Kevin Dutton, author of The Wisdom of Psychopaths in 2012, there are many psychopaths permeating the world of show business too. Dutton even claims that rock star Bruce Dickinson, singer of the legendary band Iron Maiden and commercial airline pilot, is actually a good psychopath with the ability to keep himself cool in the face of mounting stress and pressure. It's that's quite a bit of an oxymoron to say good psychopath, but I don't know, because then again, it depends on their level of psychopathy. It depends, so I don't know. I'm gonna switch to pink. Can you recognize a psychopath by looking at them? It's considered impossible to see a psychopath, at least with a single glance. And not only do psychopaths possess the same visual traits as a neurotypical people, but psychopaths are also masters of camouflage. They've spent their entire lives learning how to adapt to social expectations, even adjusting their surface behavior accordingly to blend in with the masses. However, there is one area that might betray a psychopath's true intentions, and that's their eyes. Yup. You can tell a lot through a person's eyes. Some people may be familiar with the famous psychopath eyes, the cold stare that betrays no emotion even in the face of adversity, and for many years this was considered a myth. However, new scientific findings have discovered that there might be some truth behind the legend. The eyes are a cornerstone of the body's language and nonverbal signaling. This includes the directions we look when asked to recall information, how long we're able to hold someone else's gaze, how we narrow and widen them when we are presented with information, and so forth. So it determines on how our eyes basically perceive what's in front of us and the emotions that we share through our eyes. Turn the page. Additionally, our pupils tend to dilate when we see something that upsets, offends, or disturbs us, usually brought on by our biological fight or flight response. They also dilate if something exhilarates us. One of the reasons that veteran card players check their opponent's eyes to see if they might have a good hand. But with psychopaths, this pupil dilation is rarely present, especially when presented with threatening or potentially stressful situations. Given their lack of emotion, they don't respond to these kinds of situations the way ordinary people would. So if you see So if you want to discern whether someone is a psychopath, take notes of their pupils. Do psychopaths. So everybody that watching this, that's a good note. So write that down, write that down, write that down, whether it's in your head, whether it's on a paper. Look at their pupils, and that's how you can determine, that's how you get that advance notice, that first red flag, that first warning. And yes, it says here that they may lack emotion, but they may not be like killing people. But just so that you know, because you have to be aware of everyone, good, the bad, everyone. Do psychopaths? I know they're psychopaths. Mostly, yes, psychopaths are very aware that something is wrong with them, but since psychopaths don't dwell on their thoughts too much, most never go above this level. Since all psychopaths have felt the same way since birth, they go a long time without realizing that other people don't possess the same lack of emotion as they do. Okay. Because they don't ponder on, they don't dwell on their thoughts. One of the key reasons that psychopaths don't realize their situation is that psychopathy is often depicted in the media as quite different to reality, while the mainstream image is that psychopaths possess zero emotion capabilities whatsoever. This isn't true in the reality. Psychopaths do possess an ounce of emotional awareness, it's just very dulled down. Therefore, a psychopath might not believe themselves to be one because they're afraid of their own feelings, while wrongly believing that psychopaths are pure emotionless monsters. Okay. That's very tricky, so it depends. Are psychopathic serial killers born or made? One of the oldest questions in criminal psychology concerns whether serial killers are born or made, nature versus nurture. The truth is anticlimactic as it may be, lies somewhere in the middle. Psychopaths are undoubtedly born with their condition. No amount of medical or therapeutic intervention can stop a psychopath from harboring cravings for power and domination. It's a part of their identity from the moment they become self-aware. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, the degree to which psychopaths possess these traits varies widely. However, not every psychopath goes on to become a cold-blooded murderer. Some go on to have a fruitful, pleasant lives without ever harming another soul. Therefore, there must be other factors at play that transform a psychopath into a serial killer. So not every psychopath goes on to become a cold-blooded murderer. Yeah, so it depends. But if you can fill out the situation, and if you're getting any type of instinct or any red flags, I'd say to walk away from it to avoid getting into any position like that. One such a factor is childhood abuse. A large majority of childhood killers experience violent upbringings, be it at the hands of their parents, siblings, and authoritative adults. This then distorts the psychopath's outlook on other human beings further still, and instills a deep resentment that they might spend the rest of their lives trying to undo. It seems that a generic predisposition toward violence and an abusive childhood is the most common recipe to transform a psychopath into a murderer. Are serial killing psychopaths legally insane? No, very few psychopathic serial killers are officially labeled insane. Insanity is a broad term that has no strict psychiatric classification. It's a legal term that changes between countries, states, and localities, but the general legal definition is a mental illness of such a severe nature that a person cannot distinguish fantasy from reality, cannot conduct his affairs due to psychosis, or is subject to uncontrollable impulsive behavior. And that would be someone that is insane. So in order to plead complete insanity. You have to have signs of this. While some serial killers do fit the insanity definition, most psychopaths and sociopaths are really aware of their actions but simply have no concern for the consequences. For this reason, psychopathic and sociopathic serial killers cannot be termed insane, despite many of them possessing abnormal thought patterns. The insanity defense has become a popular trope in modern times, with many offenders attempting to downplay their murderous activities and receive less strict penalties through reason of insanity. However, despite this common ploy, very few serial killers are ever found legally insane. Okay, did you know the only serial killer who ever, well, let me go ahead and go back and mark this. So none of them are ever found insane, and that is because most of them, especially psychopaths and sociopaths specifically, normally are aware of their actions, but they don't fear the consequences. Did you know the only serial killer who has ever successfully pleaded insanity was Ed Gein in 1968, a provision man who claimed to have killed over 100 children and heard voices from God, pled insanity in 1935, but was found sane and sinned. Albert Fish, a man who claimed to have killed over 100 children and heard voices from God, pled insanity, but in 1935 was found sane and sentenced to death. Jeffrey Dahmer, who also pleaded insanity, was found to be in full control of his mental faculties. Other serial killers that have pleaded insanity include Kenneth Bianchi, Andrea Yates, Anthony Sowell, Peter Sutcliffe, and John Wayne Gacy. Is Jacob syndrome related to psychopathy in serial killers? Jacob syndrome is a rare genetic condition in which a male receives an extra Y chromosome from their father, resulting in an XY Y chromosome makeup. This additional Y chromosome causes the body to produce excessive amounts of estrogen, which was found to be the case with serial killers Bobby Joe Long and Richard Speck. This interesting variable then prompted discussion as it was whether it might be a seed that larger that later caused the two as to whether it might be a seed that later caused the two criminals to commit murder. The belief being that an additional Y chromosome could make males more prone to violence. I've never heard of that. That is so strange. Getting an extra Y chromosome. Jeez. Okay, so let's get all this. Okay. Okay, so it has since become something of a myth, and scientific data has proven that males with an extra Y chromosome are not generically predisposed to more violent behavior than males who do not possess the same abnormality. The only tangible link is that the additional chromosome may create embarrassing effects for the male, such as acne, increased breast size, and a higher pitch voice, which may serve a source of humiliation that could then be transposed into resentment. Okay, so it can cause them to have acne, increased breast size, and a higher pitched voice, which can cause them to have humiliation, thus making them resent. Is there a cure for psychopathy? No, there is no cure for psychopathy, at least not in the form of medical intervention. It is a personality disorder, not a mental illness, and therefore cannot be rectified through the same means one might treat mental illness. But while psychopathy cannot be cured, it can be controlled through various means. Particularly if the psychopath is in prison, the most efficient way to control a psychopath's behavior is through reward-based means, such as offering them their favorite foods or media if they behave accordingly. So it cannot be cured, but you can manage it. Negative treatment of psychopaths rarely produce results, since psychopaths are consequences, pain, or discomfort. So the bottom line is that people who possess psychopathic traits will never change. Okay, so that is our chapter psychopaths. The next one would be motivations, what drives the serial killer, and we'll discuss the motives and things like that. I just wanted to thank you for tuning into this read today, and I hope that it was able to relax you, inform you, and give you some really deserved and well-rested sleep. And I'll see you again in the next video.